welcome to ECCB Connects. This week we'll be looking at the Regional Government Securities Market, and we have with us Mr. John Venner, advisor in the Statistics Department. John, welcome to ECCB Connects.
Thanks for having me.
John, the Regional Government Securities Market is an option for citizens to invest. But tell us, what is the RGSM?
Yes, the Regional Government Securities Market, what we call the RGSM, is really a formal arrangement between the participating governments of the ECCU to allow persons from within the region to invest in government securities. So for instance, if you are resident in Anguilla, it allows you an opportunity to invest in other government securities across the region because right now the government of Anguilla, they don't issue government securities at this time.
When we speak about government securities, we know we're speaking about treasury bills and bonds. Explain the difference and how they actually operate.
Okay. Treasury bills issued by governments really are short-term instruments. So for instance, you can get a treasury bill for 91 days, 180 days, and 365 days. Treasury bills are basically an option that you can get at a discount, what we call a discount. So for instance, if you want to buy a treasury bill for $5,000, when you participate in the auction and successful, then you would pay, say, around $4,900. And when it matures in 91 days or 365 days, you will get back the $5,000, right? Which includes the interest on that security. But you would have paid less than the $5,000 initially. With a bond is for anything over 1 year in duration. So for instance, you can buy a 5-year bond, and the bond pays interest semi-annually. So if you invest $5,000 in a bond for one of the governments, twice a year you will get interest on that bond, and at the end of the 5 years, you will get back your full principal. So again, if you invested $5,000, you will get the $5,000 at the end of the 5th year.
Okay, so you mentioned investing and so on, but take us through the process. How does the RGSM work?
Okay, what happens is that from time to time, governments will need funding either on a short-term basis, treasury bills, or bonds. So they will make an announcement that they're issuing either a treasury bill or a bond. Now, what the investor would do is talk to one of the licensed brokers, and there are 6 licensed brokers operating in the Eastern Caribbean. And when these securities become available, then the investor can decide whether they want to invest in a 91-day bill, a 365-day treasury bill, or 5-year or 10-year bond. And once they have the arrangement, open an account with the licensed broker, then the licensed broker would bid in the auction on behalf of the investor. And once you're successful as an investor, then you have ownership of that government security. And with a treasury bill, you will get the interest upon maturity, or if it's a bond, then you will get your interest semi-annually until the maturity of the bond.
So let's say there's an individual who is interested in investing in the Regional Government Securities Market. What should that person do?
Okay, first thing you should do is contact one of the 6 licensed brokers that operate in the currency union. And once you make contact with that licensed broker, what they would ask for is information in terms of what is your profile. So for instance, do you want to invest short-term or long-term? And this will be based on your own personal circumstances. And then what sort of risk that you're interested in. And then that will determine which government you may be investing in and how long you'll be investing in.
Okay, you mentioned a person has to get in touch with a licensed broker to participate in the market. How does a person get in touch with those persons?
Okay, on the website for the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and the website for the Eastern Caribbean Securities Exchange, there would be information in terms of the 6 licensed brokers. And so you can get information in terms of the name of the broker and information related to how to contact them.
What are some of the issues a person would need to consider if he or she is interested in investing in the RGSM?
Okay, in terms of the investor, it's based on your own personal circumstances. If, for instance, you're interested in investing short-term, then you most likely go for a treasury bill 91 days. But if you have the wherewithal that you can go 5 or 10 years, then one would invest that for that longer maturity, because the interest on that would be much higher than a 91-day Treasury bill. So for instance, currently the 10-year Treasury bill, you'll get a 10-year bond, sorry, you'll get a 7.5% return, while for 91-day Treasury bill, interest rate may be around 3%.
I know that there's a threshold of $5,000 for a person to participate in the RGSM. Isn't that a bit prohibitive?
Yes, it is. Feedback that we've gotten from the public, $5,000 may be a stretch for some investors. But what they have done is either coming out of our savings and investment courses that we have run in the countries, they have put together investment clubs where they pool their savings, and therefore they can invest the minimum of $5,000 or $10,000 or sometimes even $20,000 during that period. The other option that we are looking at, it hasn't arrived as yet, but trying to encourage the establishment of mutual funds. Now, how a mutual fund operates, it collects funds from different individual investors and would pool it. So for instance, people may be able to put in $100, $1,000 into the mutual fund, and the mutual fund on behalf of all these investors now would be able to reach the 5,000 threshold and invest on the market. So that's an option that we are looking at and hopefully will realize in a not too distant future.
We know that right now at the commercial banks, the interest rate on savings is, 2% minimum. Is the RGSM then a viable option for citizens of the ECCU?
Yes, we have seen in the last couple of years, as interest rates on savings deposits have declined, a lot more individuals, households, and also businesses coming on to the RGSM. So, for instance, you may be getting a return of 2% on your savings deposit at some of the commercial banks. And for, like I said earlier, in terms of the Treasury bills, you can get a return sometimes 3%, maybe as high as 6% on the 365-day bill. And for bonds, the longer-term instruments, on a 10-year bond, you can get 7.5% return. So for some individuals and businesses, it has been more attractive, and we have seen increased usage of the RGSM across the region.
So would you encourage citizens to participate?
Yes, we ask individuals, residents, to look at the RGSM. They have to make their own deliberate judgment as to how long they want to invest and which governments they're going to invest in. So really it's a determination there. We advise them to go and speak to the licensed broker to get professional advice and make a determination in terms of investing on the market.
Okay. We know with all investment there's some level of risk. What's the level of risk on the RGSM?
It varies across governments from time to time. For instance, what we've encouraged the governments to do is to undertake credit ratings. Credit rating basically gives the public a judgment as to the ability of the government to repay its debt. And so most of the governments in the region have credit ratings, and based on that, investors will make a judgment, just like in the rest of the world in terms of the credit rating.
Okay. We know that the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank has an integral role in the operation of the RGSM. Tell us how is the ECCB involved?
Right. The ECCB, we've been involved for a long time. It comes out of our ECCB Agreement Act, which basically gives us responsibility for money and capital market development. And government securities market is one such element of the money and capital markets initiatives that we have. Also, in terms of our involvement, the Act also speaks to the central bank acting as fiscal agent to the governments. So we also carry out that role as well. So we are sponsor in terms of the market, and also we work closely with governments in terms of assisting them in issuing on the market.
Okay. The RGSM, I imagine, would have some sort of oversight body or persons responsible for its operation and management. Tell us about that.
Right. In terms of oversight, we have what we call the Regional Debt Coordinating Committee, which is made up of financial secretaries from each of the 8 member governments and the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. So they meet at least 3 times a year to look at how the market is performing. So as a secretariat to the agency, the central bank would deliver reports to the RDCC, in terms of the performance of the market and any issues that we see in terms of regulatory issues coming up. And they would pass judgment and have oversight for the market.
You mentioned earlier that if individuals want to find out who the brokers are, they can go to the ECCB's website. But let's say they want additional information about the RGSM. Where can individuals obtain that information?
Right. So outside of the internet, basically they can go into local commercial banks that will have information on that. And so they'll be able to get information there. Also back on the web, we ask each of the governments, the RDCC asks each government when they're issuing to issue a prospectus, which gives full information in terms of the performance of the governments and what issues they have. So you can get all the fiscal indicators and debt indicators to make a judgment and what issues are coming up. Also on the websites, we have every month we issue the regional calendar of issues, which will indicate which governments are issuing and also which maturities. So is it a 91-day bill or is it a 5 or 10-year bond, for instance?
Okay, so you mentioned the calendar of issues. What's coming up next?
So basically what we'll have is regular 91-day issues from the governments of Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
That's in June?
Yes. Yeah. And then we will have from the government of Antigua 180-day and 365-day treasury bills. The longer-term securities, the governments will announce shortly what would be the issues that they will be coming to the market with. So that should be available by mid-June. Yeah.
So for the June issues, can persons sign up or is it too late?
No, up to the morning of the respective auctions, you can check your local licensed broker. So it's not too late, so you can always contact your brokers and the brokers will have that information for you.
John, thank you very much for speaking with us on ECCB Connects.
Thank you very much.
You're watching ECCB Connects, protecting our currency, developing our region. And now for this week's financial tip.
Hello, my name is Sonia Smith, and I am the manager of the Montreal Public Library, as well as a graduate of the ECCB's Savings and Investment course. Invest in your retirement. Determination, hard work, sound saving habits, the right knowledge, and a comprehensive financial plan are the tools required to build your retirement nest egg. By watching your expenses and changing a few spending habits, you can add to your nest egg every day.
To view any episode of ECCB Connects, anytime, any place, at your convenience, check out our YouTube channel, ECCB Connects.
We've come to the end of another episode of ECCB Connects. Thank you for watching and we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. See you next time.